Welcome to the Power of Nature podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Waldo. In this show, I talk about how nature and the natural world can communicate with us, how it can communicate directly and individually with each of us, and how this can create immeasurable benefits for us in our lives. I share stories of my experiences doing this as part of a regular and ongoing practice, and I talk to others about their experiences with the power of nature as well. So join me as we go on a journey of learning about the power of nature, how it can communicate directly with us, and the impact that it can have on our own lives. Welcome back to the Power of Nature podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking about the magical benefits of snow. So if you're new to this podcast, I live in the United States in Montana, but I haven't lived here for that long. It's been a few years. I lived in California for many years, Northern California. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I grew up in the central part of Pennsylvania. I went to college in Western Pennsylvania. I lived for a period of time in Rome, Italy. I lived in North Carolina in the Outer Banks. And I, after college, moved to the San Francisco Bay Area of California, lived there for many years, moved back to Pennsylvania after a number of years, lived in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and then moved back to California, where I still lived in the Northern California, but a different part of it. And then a stint in Nevada for a period of time, Reno, Nevada, not really in Reno, but outside of it, and then Montana. So kind of dancing around a little bit. But in all of those places, one of the things that I find that I have loved, about nature and in particular weather conditions is snow. And we didn't have snow in the part of Northern California where I lived. I had to drive to the mountains to get to snow. And so I've experienced, what it's like growing up in a place that has snow and traveling, and being in places that have snow and then living in places where it doesn't snow, or it snows like extremely rarely. When I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, there are a couple times, I don't know, maybe a handful of times over the many, many years that I lived there where there would be like a dusting of snow at the tops of the highest elevation spots. But it wasn't like living in the snow. And so when I lived in California, to get to the snow, I had to make an effort. And I would drive to the Sierra Nevada mountains, to Lake Tahoe, and try to get there as much as I could, because I love the snow. I really do. And I want to talk about that because I feel like there is so much, there's so much about something it seems so simple, like snow. Just kind of seems like this thing, this like, yeah, it can snow, and it kind of seems like this not big deal. But I find that it actually has been a big deal. And I've learned to realize that, or be open to realizing that's how I feel, as I started to really kind of understand how I feel about snow and let myself become aware of that. And that's part of what I'm talking about today. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, and, we had 4 seasons: spring, summer, winter, fall, and we had snow in the winter, and it would, get cold. And, I grew up sledding, making snowmen, learning how to ski at a really tiny little local ski resort that was at Penn State University, not on the campus, but in the town of State College. That's where I kind of learned to ski, and then some other places in Pennsylvania. I learned to be around snow with the horses when I was a kid, and I went to college in Western Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area. And then when I moved out to California, I would go to the Sierra Nevada mountains. I would go to Lake Tahoe for snow. And there's so much about snow. It's like, the first snowfall alone is enough to just, I don't know. It's like it does something to my heart and my soul. Now, we had a tiny dusting of snow here in the valley where we live a while back, maybe a couple of weeks back, where we had a little bit of snow on the ground. But it kind of almost felt like kind of snow rain. And when it came down, it didn't even really feel like the first snow. And then there has been snow at higher elevations. So like the mountain in front of me that a few weeks ago had no snow on it now has snow at the top, which I love. I love, 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 love the mountains around us when they have snow on them. As a matter of fact, way more than if they could have snow on them through the whole summer, I would be a happy camper because I love how they look. It inspires my paintings and my work. I do a lot of, I've done a lot of paintings of mountains with snow on them, and they've all been, inspired by the views of the mountains around here. As a matter of fact, I did this one painting. It's this kind of, it's this painting of a mountain range, which I do a lot of. And it has this like purplish pinkish cast to it. And you see the snow on the mountains, and there's kind of like this haze. And the other day, my husband and I were driving back from some errand, and we looked up and you could see this amazing view of the mountains with snow on them now because snow happened at higher elevations. And we're like, oh my gosh, that looks just like my painting. He's like, that looks like your painting. I'm like, I know, that looks like my painting. It was a little bit more bluish than purple, because here in Montana, we can get this like alpenglow that can happen where everything kind of gets cast in this pinkish purple kind of color. But when I sat down to paint the painting that I'm talking about, I wasn't trying to paint an alpenglow. I just felt like painting with purple, kind of purples, and I didn't even know why. And then I didn't even know what I was painting, and it led to a painting of mountains. But it's funny because it's like I took it in without even realizing, and then it came out without even trying or realizing in my painting. Like I didn't sit down to try to paint a purple alpenglow painting of the mountain range around me. That's not the way it worked at all. I sat down to paint. I had an idea of like purple and kind of purplish and kind of grays, like whites. And then I just kind of went, and out of me came this mountain range and these mountains with snow on them and this kind of hazy look. And it like ended up looking like what I had seen, what I see, and then what my husband and I saw again the other day. But it wasn't what I set out to do. But clearly clearly it affected me because I painted it, but I didn't set out to paint it. It's like it emerged from within me. Now, I talk about this stuff a lot in, the Creating from the Inside Out podcast, because that is all about embracing our creative power. And to me, that means embracing our own creative power in how we're choosing to live. And that can include the choices we make about our lives and the life we want to create, but it also can mean how we're utilizing our creative energy in our own expressions of what we want to share in the world. So in that case, that can be, what would be considered more of like a creative expression, like an output, like a painting or a song or, writing or drawing or, what is kind of traditionally considered some kind of art or art expression. And I talk about that kind of stuff in that show, Creating from the Inside Out. But here it was that snow had such an effect on me. And I have done so many paintings of mountains with snow on them. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I've done any paintings without snow on them that are mountains. Maybe. I did a watercolor, actually. I'm looking at right now. It's on my ledge, and it's kind of like browns, and it doesn't have snow. And I think I did kind of like an orange, kind of like a mountain range that was like more oranges and yellows, and it didn't have snow. But other than that, like tons and tons of canvases of mountains with snow. So clearly snow means a lot to me. And I feel like I'm trying to put words to what it means, because I feel like this is important. I feel like there's a way in which, sometimes we just kind of think of things like, rain, especially in nature. We just kind of think of like rain or, clouds or the sky or trees or, mountains or whatever. And we're just like, yeah, this is, part of nature and that's cool, and we appreciate it. But I've just really come to understand that sometimes when we go beyond that and we consciously allow ourselves to become aware of, why do we like this thing? What is it about it that kind of resonates with us? What is it that speaks to us about this? How do we feel about it? There's something about that kind of conversation we can have with ourselves that I find, at least for me, it's benefited me. It benefits me, like in talking through in this podcast about things like birds and trees and the weather. It's like talking about it and appreciating it and recognizing the ways in which these aspects of nature have been really powerful in impact. They've had powerful, a powerful impact on my life. They've created amazing benefits for my life. And talking about that and becoming conscious of it and recognizing it, what I have found is that it's almost like it opens up the door for more. And then I feel better. Like I feel good. I find that it just serves me. And so when we can do this with some aspect of nature and let ourselves kind of look at, well, what is it about nature that we like and why do we like it? And how does it feel to us? And we kind of open the door. We start to have like memories of things come up. We start to kind of like, it's like a well of feel good stuff, that can come up that I find benefits me, and I think it benefits us, that can happen as a result. So that's why, I talk about this, and why I want to talk about this, why I've talked about this today, and I want to talk about snow. So to me, when I think about snow, when I think about what is the impact that snow has, I mean, one of the first things that comes up is the feeling of the first snow. The first real snow of the year. To me, the first real snow is when you get those like flakes that you can see, that you kind of feel like you want to go outside and like just stick your tongue out and like, taste them, because they just are just so amazing. They're like big and it's clear, and there's just such a magical feeling when we have our first snowfall like that. I mean, and if you really think about it, I mean, seriously, these amazing, if you look at a snowflake, right, we all see, if you could Google up snowflake and you see people draw images of snowflakes and they like have all these like intricate patterns and whatever, but that's really what snowflakes look like when you zoom in on them, like when you see them just kind of falling down in your inside, they just kind of look like a blob. But when you really look at a snowflake, they're this amazing crystal like kind of pattern, and there's no two snowflakes alike. And what an amazing thing to think about, the fact that this was created. This is something we get to experience, right? The experience of having this perfect combination of condensation and weather that comes together to create this form of water that is frozen just enough into a snowflake that it creates this crystalline structure that is so beautiful. I mean, just even talking about it just kind of takes my breath away, because I'm like, that is not like random. There's just so much amazing just beauty in the idea that that is in the world available to us, and then, taking in the experience of standing outside where it's like, a dark sky and there are snowflakes falling down, and you see them and they're just these like really big snowflakes, and like I said, you just kind of want to stick your tongue out, or you just want to look at them. Doesn't it just make you stop? I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I'm in that kind of weather, especially the first one of the season, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's just so magical. And we have this amazing, view out, we have these big windows out of our, the front of our kind of like a living dining room, kitchen area with these really big windows, and so we can kind of look out and see the snow come down. Or my office has, a lot of windows on the one wall, and I can look and see the mountain behind and watch the snowflakes come down. And it is just such an amazing experience, such an amazing treat, such an amazing gift, isn't it? I mean, do you feel that? I know I certainly feel it. And then when you start to see it, to me, another magic moment is when you start to see it collect on the ground. Like, it's one thing when it kind of falls and then it melts, and then it falls and then it melts, But when you start to see it like compile on the ground, and you start to get this like, dusting of snow, and then more snow, and then more snow, and suddenly everything is just white. Like the trees are covered with snow, and the fence tops are covered with snow, and the roofs are covered with snow. And I go out and I feed my horses, and there's snow on them, and they have snow on their eyelashes, and it's just this like beautiful thing. A couple of years ago, I don't think it was last winter, I think it was the winter before, we had an early snowfall, like a really big, serious snowfall early in the year. I think it was like the first weekend in November, and we hadn't experienced that before. And when I say snowfall, I mean like, I don't know, I think we got like, trying to remember, maybe like 12 to 16 inches in that snowfall. And we were not ready for it. Like we were not ready for the snow because we didn't have stuff set up for our horses because we didn't think it was going to snow that early, and we were behind, and it was kind of crazy. But it was like our property went from, kind of what it looks like right now to a winter wonderland, like instantaneously. And it was daunting because, like I said, we were like, we didn't have stuff set up. We weren't ready for it. We didn't expect it. But it was also amazing. Like I took a photo of my husband in the horse pasture, and it's like you just see snow everywhere, and you see snow on the trees, and you see all the snow on the mountain range behind. And it's just like amazing. It's just like this magical thing. I also love, I remember like really how quiet it is when it's been snowing, right? Because if it's been snowing, people tend not to drive as much. So it tends to be quieter. We live near, not a major highway, but a road that we can hear from our property. And when it snows, it's almost like the volume has been turned down. It's almost like we have this like little private place that we don't usually have. And it's this kind of quiet that you can just feel. And it's this amazing experience where it's like whatever sounds you hear, kind of get amplified. Like, for me, what I would start to notice is, I would hear more clearly, sounds of deer in the woods, because they do like a stamping thing to communicate with each other. And so I would hear their stamping. Now, when I go into the woods in the summer, sometimes the deer will come up on me and they'll stamp to let other deer know that I'm out in the woods. And I hear that in the summer when it's, and I'm just out there. But I'm talking about not being in the woods. I'm talking about just being, in our driveway or in our horse pasture or whatever. And, but I can hear what's happening in the woods because everything is so quiet. And I can hear a deer stamping and communicating with another deer. And it's such a peaceful, amazing, and yet magical experience. A magical experience that I feel like snow brings to me, that it just like warms up my heart, delights my heart. Is this the way you feel about snow? I mean, I can't be the only one. And yeah, I have my experiences where I'm like, less so here in Montana, but when I grew up in Pennsylvania, or when I lived in Philadelphia, in the city, there's my phone, in the city, and I would hear, or we would get a lot of snow, and it would be like snow, 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 and you're trying to do your stuff, and there's snow piled everywhere, and there's snow dirty everywhere from the cars, and all of that, and I would be kind of like, when's the snow going to be done, but. And here we even have a longer season of snow in Montana, because it can kind of like snow for a long time. It can snow way into the spring, or we can have like warmer weather in the spring, and then suddenly we can have a major snowfall. You just kind of never know. You just have to be ready for it. And that's just the way it is. And I've learned to just kind of embrace it and really kind of appreciate the wonder and the magic of nature, how nature just does whatever it's going to do. And I kind of like go along for the ride, like the curiosity of it, and working with it versus kind of feeling like it needs to be controlled, or it needs to be a certain way. And I find that I don't know, it's more amazing. It's more empowering for me to do that when I learn to live that way. And to that end, actually, here in Montana, like we do not, in our property, we do not have a paved road. Our driveway is not paved. We have gravel on it. And then the road from the end of our property to like the major road is a dirt road as well. It has gravel on it, but it's considered a dirt road. So we do not have a paved road. And what does that mean? It means that we need to but we need to plow our own road, and or plow the joint road that our neighbors share with us to get out to the main road that is maintained by the county. And sometimes that plowing just ain't happening. It just isn't. And so what I've learned, is that we need to make sure we have stuff. Like for me in the winter, I stock up on my horse's hay because I may not be able to get out for a while, with the truck to be able to get hay. I make sure that we have, a stock up on food, although usually we don't go that long without being able to at least drive out and get food. But, I make sure like food for the horses, but food for ourselves as well. But I also allow myself to be okay with just being snowed in and enjoying that. And I discovered the beauty of that actually in Lake Tahoe. It was in, I think, 2019 when I had a ski cabin in Tahoe that we shared with some other families. And if you hear a dog in the background, that's my son's dog. He's barking because somebody's home. But we had a ski cabin, and I would go up all the time by myself because I love snowboarding, because I love the snow, and I love the mountains, and I love snow. Did you get that maybe? Like I paint snowy mountains, and I love snow, and I love snowboarding. So yeah. So I did a lot of that. And the one time I went up and we had a blizzard. Literally, I mean, I'm not calling it a blizzard. It was officially called a blizzard, where we were snowed in and we couldn't leave the cabin. It was my kids and I. My husband didn't come up that time for some reason, and it was just my kids and I, and we were in like a blizzard and we were snowed in. But, it was like we had this cabin. It was really cool. It was in Tahoe. It was this amazing treat to be able to have this place, and so we just kind of like just really enjoyed it. And I've learned to do that actively, consciously, living here in Montana. Like when we get snowed in, I just celebrate it. I'm just like, okay, cool. We're snowed in. All right. We're going to have soup. I'm going to put my warm fuzzy socks on. I'm going to, wear my fuzzy fleece. Not that I don't, other than that, because I wear my fuzzy fleece a lot anyway. But I'm gonna we're gonna turn on the fireplace. We're gonna make warm beverages. We're gonna watch the snow outside. We're gonna just be snowed in. I also find that I do things like be more creative. I paint a heck of a lot. I create a heck of a lot when I am snowed in, when I am, and even in wintertime in general, because it's like this slow down time. It's a slow down, a listen time, and it is so amazing. I find myself creating more. I find myself just enjoying, like listening, especially, of course, we have Christmas. So, Christmas music, but also even after Christmas, like listening to music, putting on jazz, putting on just kind of going more inward. That is one of the most amazing things that I think snow does. It's this magical creation that we have here on Earth that, if we live in a part of the country that get to experience it, it's this magical thing. And it can give us an amazing opportunity to see everything look different. Everything with this amazing white on it. Everything with this beautiful sparkle on it. And I find that it can encourage us to just slow down, get cozy, comfort ourselves, engage in self-care more, listen more to ourselves, not be so quick to run away and get out and do this and do that and get this and get that. Sometimes when we get snowed in, we can't. And it's an opportunity for us to just be like, I'm gonna listen to myself. I'm just going to take care of myself. I'm just going to slow down. I'm just going to embrace this. And I find when I do that, it benefits me. It always benefits me. And I think it can benefit everyone. And I think that when we can become aware, if we feel about snow in this way, or different aspects of nature, tuning into what we love about it and appreciating it can benefit us. But I'm assuming if you are a lover of snow, or you like it for some reason, because I can't imagine why you listen to this podcast, this episode otherwise, I would have turned it off long ago if I heard myself talking about snow. But if you're still with me, embrace snow for what it gives you. Think about what you love about it. Listen to yourself and what yourself is feeling and communicating when you are experiencing snow. Because I find that when I do that, it benefits me in a lot of ways. I can experience peace, joy, clarity. I can have new awarenesses of things that I've been calling myself to know about what I really want and who I really am. And I'm the better for it. So it's an ode to the magic of snow. And we haven't had our first major snowfall yet, but I know I'm looking forward to it here in Montana. And I'm going to revel in the experience when it happens. So that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode, and I'm going to leave it at that until the next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Power of Nature podcast. To learn more about me and my other offerings, you can visit my website at michellewaldo.com. That's MICHELLEWALDO.com.